So first, let me ask you a question. How many of you have already developed apps using HoloLens or other AR glasses? All right, there's a couple of you. That's cool. So we don't need to tell you what AR is, because after 3 days on Unite, there have been plenty of cool examples of how AR is used throughout the industry. And what we want to talk to you about today is how we use AR apps to bring value to the business at ABB. So we'll talk about this from our, as developers, perspective. So let us begin with the agenda. So today, first we will talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. And then just a brief introduction to where augmented reality is on the current market. And we also, for those of you who haven't developed apps for HoloLens but want to maybe start developing some apps or have some use cases, or just curious, we will tell you how to get started in building your own apps. And then finally, we will go through a case study, so a real project that we built. And we'll tell you a little bit about what challenges we faced and show you some solutions, how to approach some of the problems that might occur at your work. So, who we are. We came from Krakow, and we might also introduce ourselves. So, my name is Rafał, and this is my friend Maciej. And we are both developers for ABB IS Innovation. Now, some of you might know ABB, some of you might not. It's a huge company, generally speaking, and in particular, we work for ABB IS Innovation. And it is a technical center of expertise which drives with scouting for new cutting-edge technologies and finding ways to apply them in business. And our mission, or the way that we like to call our product, is called the minimum awesome product. And what is a minimum awesome product? Well, it is a product, an app, that uses some of these new technologies, so like augmented reality or AI or stuff like this. But even though we build relatively small projects, we want them to already bring some value to the business. So it's not just a technical showcase. We want our clients to really benefit from the use of these technologies. So we are developing AR stuff. So to show you, because maybe you might not know, there is this cool chart from Gartner, and it shows the hype chart for all the emerging technologies. And we use this to illustrate where AR is right now. But just a couple days ago, we had to update the next slide a little bit because there has been an updated version of the chart released. So we had to update the slide, and as you see, this is where AR was placed last year on this hype chart. And it's gone now. So, oh no, there's no hype for AR anymore, is it? Well, it's actually good news for us. And why is this? Well, AR has been moved to the status of a mature technology. And we already see, we've seen through these 3 days how AR is widely being used. It's like half of the developers here are dealing with AR, or it seems so. And it indicates that there is a need for real use case implementations. And whilst with our business, with AR glasses and wearables, these are still mostly enterprise solutions. But we see that there is a new generation of tools emerging. So we see this year's release of Microsoft HoloLens 2, which brings many improvements, and we are able to continuously develop better and better apps for our clients. So let's talk a little bit about why AR stands out and what we are actually dealing with.
Okay. Hello. Before case study, we would like to say a few words about what are we doing. First of all, we prepare augmented reality application targeted to some employee working in factory on industrial site. So we need to prepare some kind of hat But HUD augmented reality is different than in game because we don't have a screen, we don't have any computer in front of our head. We have only sight. We have only real devices, real sight, real walls, and we need to put some kind of HUD, some kind of windows inside this environment, and it should be quite good enough looking for if employee has some kind of problem, it would be can have a good access for it. So on these panels, we have some data from our backend, and this is another great feature of augmented reality, because the next feature is remote support. For our application, it's important feature because we have a lot of maintenance on industrial side. We have a lot of work with some kind of devices, and we have support remotely, so we can call to the technical staff and get information. But on the other hand, we have augmented reality features like animation directly connected to devices, like some kind of holograms showing the problem at the real time. So as you see, knowledge is instant. It's an instant, and everyone could be an expert. And another thing is that interaction with business reality is very good in that kind of application because, for example, HoloLens recognize site, recognize your workspace, and hologram could be adapted for your problems, for your real problems. And it seems that it could be difficult to start, but in our opinion, this isn't difficult. It's easy because you only need to Unity install on your computer and download Mixed Reality Toolkit. Mixed Reality Toolkit is some bunch of elements like interactive elements, buttons, sliders. You can grab it from your assets, put on the scene, and everything should work. And everything is prepared for instant use. Of course, HoloLens tracked your hand. HoloLens 2 doing it very good. HoloLens 1 too, but now you can grab the element, grab the holograms. You can manipulate them, and it's easy to start because this feature is implemented in this package. So it's quite easy. Another thing is that inside MRTK, there is a lot of useful things, like shaders. Shaders are, it's hard to work with shaders, because you need to think about a lot of things. Everything could be broken by shader. Now you have prepared shaders, you can use it easily. Another thing is the things exactly connected to the device. The device sensors, etc. Like solvers that prevent going holograms into the walls or some others real devices on the site. System keyboard, you can use it simply way because in HoloLens 1 you need to use prefab, prepare for this. Now there's a system keyboard like in a normal system in HoloLens. And of course, if you don't have any device like HoloLens, you can use mixed reality headsets, because this toolkit is prepared to work with it.
So let's move on to the real case study. And this is an app that we prepared for one of our business units. And we will go through the process of development and just from our developer's perspective, tell you a little bit about how it looked like. So the client came to us with a couple of problems to solve. And to familiarize you a little bit with the problem, imagine an industrial site and engineers working on the site. So let's call them field operators. And these people, need to perform some manual actions on the devices. And they require time-consuming trainings, but these trainings are absolutely necessary because the tasks that they perform are obviously dangerous. And there have been some incidents in the past, and we were asked to find a remedy to this problem and increase safety on the site. So another problem that they came to us with was that the procedures for these maintenance or service actions were up till now written on paper. So as you can imagine, this might not be the most convenient way in 2019. And this led to a couple of more problems. Like at any given time, when performing a procedure, you have at least 2 people involved. So you have a field operator performing these manual actions, and you have a control room operator in another place, and they need to exchange some information. They need to communicate with each other. So confirm that the step has been done or exchange some data from devices, because not all the data is visible just on a screen or something. And also problems with assigning and tracking tasks. You can imagine also walking around an industrial site and having to carry around a mobile phone, a laptop. Of course, you're wearing all these industrial clothes and also these paper procedures. It's not really the best way to go. So we prepared an all-in-one solution for this.
And how we tackle this problem? Business came to us and asked us to prepare mobile application and AR application. Mobile application are well known. Everyone uses this application for everything, I think. Now we need to increase trust to AR application among business. So we prepare second application that has the same features like in mobile application. And above all, these applications are connected to the same backend. The primary feature is, like my colleague said, digitalized procedures instead of papers one. And this is much more flexibility, and we want to increase productivity, yes, of course. But on the other hand, we are focused on increase safety on industrial site, because this is most important for us and for our application. Second one is the labels. We have some kind of labels connected directly to devices on site, like valves, like pumps. There's a lot of devices that doesn't have any visual information about their state. For example, pump has some switcher. Maybe some kind of devices has some screen with data on it, but a lot of those devices doesn't have anything to show their state. So we prepare labels, attach them to these devices, and show information from backend. It's pretty simple, but we have some problem with another things connected to this one.
Yeah, so let's talk about challenges. But first, let's take a little break and let's take a look into the future. So everybody knows this one person who opens the internet browser, but never closes the tabs that they open. Do you know such people? Yeah, so imagine that in the future, when we will have consumer AR glasses, and you will leave these glasses to your kid, for example, and suddenly you will find yourself in a house full of holographic dinosaurs just running around. Or it also happened in our case, when we were showing the employees our apps, and they didn't know how to close those apps or windows that were open, and the whole office is just scattered. There are scattered holograms everywhere, turbochargers, just models of valves, like pumps, and it's just everywhere. So as for some actual developer challenges, there are problems with location and device recognition. You have to find the most efficient way to recognize your devices that you want to show the data from. And also, you have to think about designing a proper user experience. So building a UI on AR might not be so trivial, because we have best practices for mobile devices. But there aren't many written best practices for actually building holo apps. So you have to think about that as well. And storing hologram positions, ergonomy of interactions. But keeping all this in mind, all these challenges, if you approach them properly, if you find proper solutions, these are actually opportunities to make your app even better. So we will go for these challenges and maybe show you some ideas of how to overcome them.
Okay, we prepared some kind of good and bad practice using HoloLens. Firstly, we have some windows, and we attach to all windows button to close it. And another, I think, maybe voice commands to close everything. And a lot of the time, user close everything via one command. And now this is disrupting because user doesn't know what's happened. Maybe application is crashed now, or battery in devices is low and everything is switched off because they don't see anything on the stage, on the scene. So another thing is obscuring elements like menu, like this menu. Everything is okay, but if some menu following by user and located in the front of him, it could obscuring the real devices, and you can see your hand, so it's not good. We prepare some kind of workaround. We put some collider on the floor. This collider was invisible and walk and following by the user, and user can click on this collider when he wants, and many appear and docked on this place. Another, you can click on the different place and many relocate. It was good. In HoloLens 2, you have some kind of new feature because HoloLens 2 recognize hands much better. You can put hands up, hands face up, face down, and menu could appear near to your hand. You can click on it like this. And it's what's good. Oh, this is...
Yeah, so is the film not working? Or, yeah, it is working. Okay, so you might think that, okay, so we cannot obstruct the user's view. So let's design the menu a little bit smaller. And it's not always a good solution. So it's okay if you have a menu like here, it's just beside your hand. So it's easy to click, it's easy to interact with. But it might not be the case if you can place your holograms, your windows, like just anywhere. If you have like far interactions, if you make your buttons or all interactables too small, it might be difficult to target them using HoloLens. You can use tapping, eye gazing. Voice commands will work, obviously, but it might not be as convenient to use other methods. And HoloLens also obviously has field of view limitations, then you have to take this into consideration when building your apps. So seemingly obvious things like just scrolling the text. If you scroll the text using buttons, for example, you might want to place your buttons as close to the context as possible so that if you look on the buttons, you will still see the text because otherwise you will not notice what you're actually scrolling. Now, this will most likely be easily fixed with HoloLens 2, which use eye tracking to recognize whenever your eyes approach the end of the page, so then they will scroll the page automatically for you. And also don't forget about allowing the user to have multiple possible interactions. So in our case, we couldn't use just voice commands for interactions because it can get noisy in a natural site. So we have to think about some alternatives. And we have some demo prepared for you. So this is our app in the Unity editor. It's kind of difficult to show AR apps in an exciting way like this in the editor. But we have prepared this 3D model of industrial site. And my colleague is now moving around. And you see that these 3 main windows are following him if he wants them to. And if he just releases the tab, then they are docked. And there are some steps in the procedure that require some specific actions, like inputting some value from a device. So it's important to bear in mind not to force the user to input too much text, because it's still not really handy on HoloLens to do this. But in case of just inputting some numbers, it's okay. So we can input the text, and the procedure will check if everything's fine. And on the model of this site, you see 3D labels attached to different devices. And if user has the right privileges, he can move these labels around if the positions are not correct. It's important to allow the user to make some corrections, because the scanning might not be totally accurate. So right now we don't see this, but my colleague actually had to hold his left mouse button to drag these holograms around. And this might not be really handy on a real device, because you just have to keep your hand like this all the time. It might be a better solution to implement this in a way that you just tap on the move option, and then the window follows your eye gaze. So like in this case of an options menu, and you can just move it around and dock it whenever you want to. So then it's placed whenever you want to. And also, whenever you walk around this, it's billboarding towards your face, so that you never lose track of what you're doing. And also, it's worth to let the user know which device is actually involved in an action, so that you highlight which label is actually mentioned in the procedure step. Yeah, so let's move back to the presentation. And yeah, the ergonomy of interactions. Let's sum this up a little bit. So we've talked about voice commands, and they are really useful. They are relatively low effort to implement, but they are pretty reliable and can help you a lot. We talked about limiting the number of actions the user needs to perform. So we can automate quite a lot of things, like spawning the windows and having them just float whenever you want them to, and just dock them with one click. It's really handy this way. And also having clear instructions to the user of what he needs to do. So like showing tap to dock, so that he knows what he needs to do all the time. And yeah, this has much to do with testing, because sometimes we design some functionality, but when we showed them to clients, they just didn't know what to do, because they are not experienced people when it comes to HoloLens devices. So it's always important to have a person, just random person, interact with your app and see if they can work with it and reach all the important functions. And if not, maybe there are some ways to improve your UI. And it's also worth mentioning that on the HoloLens 2, you already have these examples of instinctive design. So even the system keyboard in HoloLens 2 has this 3D holographic handles that you just see them, and you immediately know that this is the place that I need to grab this hologram to move it around. So for whenever you cannot highlight just something, this is an example from HoloLens 1. It was not as instinctive to interact with these elements, but with HoloLens 2 we have these possibilities, so it's good to utilize them. Device and location recognition. You can approach this in a lot of ways. You can use image or model recognition, and this might work in many cases. But in our case, it wasn't sufficient enough. And it was because we had many similar devices on site. And we needed to reliably show to the user the data from the right device. So we needed to identify them individually. So we needed to come up with another solution.
Yes, image and model recognition is good, but from our standpoint, it's insufficient, because we need to grab specific data from backend and put them on these labels. So we're trying to use QR codes. QR codes is pretty good because they have textual data, but it's difficult to get pose estimation, rotation and position inside Unity coordinate system. So we decided to use existing solution based on OpenCV, Aruco codes. Aruco codes, it's IT difference between QR code there is because Aruco codes has only 1,000 numbers at all, and we can get precisely the pose estimation, the rotation and position inside the Unity coordinate system. So we connected this both solution and its work currently, but we have some improvements. Of course, in HoloLens 2, there is a feature that using only QR codes, like QR and Aruco together, we can grab data and position and rotation and one scan. And there is some improvements connected to front head camera. On HoloLens 1, we need to scan via front head camera. And it's not good because this interrupt any other functionality. If you want call to remote assister, remote support, or if you want record something, it's impossible at once. Now, I think in HoloLens 2, there is a depth camera located on the side of the device with much more bigger angle to scan. And the scanning is much easier and don't interrupt any other things connected to front head camera. And storing holograms. Okay. Sometimes we need to attach our labels, our holograms, directly to the correct device. And we expect that this hologram stay them when we are working and walking around. But if HoloLens losing the position, losing they need to rescan your space. And now Unity coordinate system can move. And all labels were in the randomly position. So we used word anchors. Word anchors are simply, this is a component inside Unity. You can attach them to some kind of game object. And now device think about these word anchors like, okay, I have few meters to this wall, I have 5 meters to the ceiling, to this wall I have 3 meters. So the next time when HoloLens and Unity found this word anchor, the position will be relocated. So it's good to storing position between session, but Azure Spatial Anchors, this is a feature, this is a framework from Azure, could shift this functionality to another user or between devices. So it's pretty cool because we can change the position at runtime. So another user can see it at the runtime. But this is insufficient too for us because our users need to see all devices, all pins, all holograms at start application. So you don't have any feature like grab hologram and put on the scene, and then word anchor will be attached, and everything will be work properly. It's not work in our solution. So we storing some other coordinates, grab them on the start, and we need scan the QR code, find location inside Unity coordinate system, then relocate and instantiate elements on the scene, and then attach the word anchors.
So let's wrap this up and let's play some predictions. What comes next? So, well, this whole Unite it was really pretty exciting, and we see some new features, AR Foundation coming to Unity, and it really opens some doors for developing even better applications. So we hope that with new devices emerging on the market, with manufacturers wanting to jump on the AR train, the businesses will finally start gaining value from the use of AR because of the new opportunities that we have with these devices, new ways of interaction, more powerful wearables, and overall them becoming more reliable will drive the market forward. So what we hope is that in a couple of years maybe we'll be finally able to start bringing cool immersive AR experiences also to the consumer market. So this is it from us. Thank you very much, and we are open for questions. And there are microphones just out there, so we encourage you to use those if you can.
You briefly mentioned that you were using eye gaze to interact with your interfaces. Could you provide some of your experiences in people using eye gaze? Are they familiar with that? Can they use it right away, or is it something that they have to practice before using their eyes?
Sorry, what solution did you mention first?
Eye gaze. You said you are using eye gaze to point at windows.
Yeah, well, eye gaze. On HoloLens 1, it tracks where you are looking at. But in HoloLens 2, it will be possible to target the elements just by looking at them, but without necessarily moving your head around. This is still a feature to come for the next devices.
So you have not been using eye gaze; you have been using head gaze.
Yep.
Thank you.
We only tested eye gaze solution. It's good, but you need to look at big elements because human focus is scattering, and if you have some small buttons, it's not good to look at them and click them and so on. So this is difficult, but there is some cases to use, like scrolling the page. It's good.
No more questions? All right. Then if anyone wants to talk to us, just catch us anywhere here around Unite. Thank you very much.
Thank you.